Hello and welcome to part 5 of JavaScript and Introduction. In this part we are going to be looking at functions. So functions are blocks of code that we can reuse, and we write a function like so. We first declare the function keyword, we give the function a name, this can be anything, follow it with a pair of parentheses, and then outside of these parentheses a pair of curly brackets, and then inside of these curly brackets is where we write our code. Functions can take what are called arguments, and these arguments go in the parentheses. And these arguments can be anything, so let's just say we passed in a name to the name function. We can then access this name by just calling name, like so. So we could say let new name equal name, and then we're accessing the variable like so. So going back to the part 3 when we're using arrays, we had a shopping list that looked like this. And let's pretend that we wanted to add to this shopping list using code. Now we know that we can write shopping list dot push and then some item, but we want to use a function to do this. So let's rename this function to add item, and we want to add an item that we call. So we want to add lots of different items, which is the whole point of functions. We can reuse the code. So let's say new item that we want to add. And then inside of the function, we'll paste this code, and we want to add the new item, like so. Now whenever we want to add an item to this array, we call the function. Now how do we actually use this function? Now we do what is called invoking, and to invoke a function we simply call the name, and then use the parentheses like so. And if the function we're using has arguments, like this one does, we pass in the argument. So I want to add a new item of Xbox to our shopping list. So I do add item and then Xbox, like so. So if I come here and console log the shopping list, I'll do one before and I'll do one after, like so. You see I have bread, butter, Coke, it gets added, and then I have bread, butter, Coke, and Xbox. An important note, the function can be above or below, it doesn't matter. I like to keep mine at the below, at the bottom of the files, just so I can keep it organized, so I know that my functions are down here, and I can keep all of the logic up here, because this happens in sequential order. So we do this first, and then this. We can create variables inside of functions, like I did before. So we can come in and we can say, let new item equal new item, like so. So we're setting a new variable called new item equal to the new item here. Now, an important thing to understand about variables inside of functions, they are only accessible inside of the function. So I can access new item here, you know what I mean? Like, I'll make it easy, I'll change this to new items. So I can access new items anywhere inside of this function. But if I try to access it outside, so if I come to here and say console log new items, and then I log that, you'll see I get an error because new items doesn't exist. We can do what is called returning from a function, and it allows us to return a value. So let's just rename this to square number, and then I want a number that we want to square, and then we can return a value. So we do that by first writing return, and then the value that we want to return. And since this function is getting the square number, I'm going to do number times a number, like so. And then we can use this to set variables. So let's just say squared, and then want to call squared number, and let's square 4. And then console log this squared, we get 16. So if I change this to, I don't know, 10, we get 100, like so. So we can use the return to return a value. And that's it for functions. Thank you for watching. I will see you on the next part.